You want to hide it. You want to hide it from the teacher, because if you're holding it up so you can be looking at the teacher and your phone at the same time, your teacher's going to either take the phone away or tell you to put it away. So you're going to hide it. So you're going to try to have it in between your legs and below the desk, and it's going to cause your head to go all the way down, which means you're going to block out the rest of the world, including your teacher. And this teacher was probably experiencing just that. So instead of people, coming to terms and saying, well, let's address this problem in the school, they were probably telling the teacher, hey, it's your class, teach it. And he was probably saying, well, I can't because, all these kids are on their phones. Well, just teach class anyway. So he was probably frustrated. Not condoning his actions, just saying that there's a bigger problem there. Always, and they're, they just want to blame the teacher on this one. Hello? I don't think it's just the teacher's fault in this case. You got to look past it. There's a lot more, a lot more there. GOP-led House votes to keep restrictions on travel to Cuba. I have mixed feelings on this. Look, our travel bans and trade embargo on Cuba is, I know some people say, well, obviously it's working because the Cuban people are still in poverty, but that's the point. The Cuban people are still in poverty, and the government of Cuba is not suffering at all. And it has nothing to do with, we're the only nation left that's got some sort of sanctions against Cuba. The point is that this is a harsh dictatorial communist regime that just isn't going to give up power, and they'll do whatever it takes in order to funnel the money that they need into their coffers and keep the Communist Party and communist rule going. Now, House Republicans voted Thursday. This is a Newsmax.com story. House Republicans voted Thursday to keep restrictions on Americans seeking to travel to Cuba, a setback to Obama administration efforts to ease the 5-decade Cold War standoff. There is no standoff. I love this part. There's no standoff. I mean, in order for there to be the standoff, there has to be, equality here. If we wanted to just thump Cuba and just take it over, we could do it. It would be kind of like going into Iraq. Only it would be easier because it's only 90 miles off of our Florida coast. I mean, it would be so much easier just to thwack the Castros and bump them out and set something in place. Now, of course, there would be ramifications later to have to deal with, with Russia and Venezuela and other things. But just to take over Cuba, it's not a difficult thing. Would not be difficult. Just a quick, and a lot of the people in Cuba would be like a lot of people in Iraq. They'd welcome us to do that. It wouldn't take much for us to thwack the Castros and then bump them out. But the Republican controlled chamber voted 247 to 176 to keep a Cuba-related provision in a transportation funding bill. The provision would block new rules issued in January that would significantly ease travel restrictions to Cuba and allow regularly scheduled flights for the first time in over 50 years. Now, the administration rules lifted a requirement that U.S. travelers obtain a license from the Treasury Department before traveling to Cuba. Instead, all that is required is for travelers to assert that their trip would serve educational, religious, or other permitted purposes. Yeah. So, we're not going to be able to travel as easy to Cuba as we thought. And I hear people say, well, Cuba was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. Yeah. Back in its heyday, like in the 50s. People vacationed there. It was a tropical paradise with its Art Deco and it was wonderful. And then they had their so-called revolution, and you had Chavez and then Castro. um, coming to power instead. And they ended up, that's why they have, lots of 50s era Chevys running around. I remember a game. Was it Grand Theft? One of the first Grand Theft Autos. It was one or two. And they had this you could travel in Cuba. And one of the cars in Cuba was like a 57 Chevy. They had a 55 Chevy, I think. And it's all a bunch of Chevys running around in Cuba in Grand Theft Auto. And it was modern. It wasn't like in the 50s. It was modern, but that's the kind of cars. Well, that's what's going on in Cuba. They don't have a lot of new stuff. Which is why Raul Castro is looking to get the embargo and sanctions lifted. Because, he just wants to live in a lap of luxury before he and his brother die. Fidel. Yes, for those of you who didn't know, if you're in Rush Limbaugh's Realenda, Fidel is Raul Castro's younger brother. Raul is the older of the two. And Raul is now the president of Cuba because Fidel got sick and decided to retire. So, Fidel is late 70s and Raul is early 80s. So, but they're, and I'm sure if Raul passes away, then Fidel will come out of retirement to once again rule with an iron fist over the little island of Cuba, just about 90 miles off of our Floridian coast. Just saying. Here's another story from Newsmax. This should piss you off. I know I like to pick stuff that really ticks people off and get them going, but IRS says illegals granted amnesty can file for back tax refunds. Say what? Illegal immigrants granted amnesty under President Barack Obama's immigration reform will be able to claim back tax refunds from years in which they never filed taxes, the IRS says. Well, they didn't file taxes because they're illegals. Look, in order for them to file taxes and with them being illegal, don't they have to have a Social Security number? Well, if they're illegal, they're not getting a legal Social Security number. So what are they doing? They're stealing somebody else's Social Security number. So now they've just committed identity fraud. Now, identity fraud is very serious and a very serious crime in this country, and people go to jail for identity fraud. But the IRS is saying, you can commit identity fraud, and we'll, under the amnesty rules from Obama, we'll allow you to file your taxes and get a refund from back taxes, and just give us your Social Security number. Well, I have a not my Social Security number; it is a fake one. Yeah, we'll take it. That's okay. You'll be good. You'll be good. To clarify earlier comments on the EITC, not only can an individual amend a prior year's return to claim the earned income tax credit, but an individual who did not file a prior year return may file a return and claim the earned income tax credit, subject to refund limitations under Section 6511 of the Internal Revenue Code. This was in a written response request from Senator Chuck Grassley. Now, Grassley released the comments yesterday from the IRS about this very thing. Now, despite the policy, the IRS doesn't think many illegal immigrants will file for back tax returns because they'll have to produce official documentation that shows how much they earned in a given year. Yeah, like that Social Security number that they used, which is a fake or false or stolen security number, which then means identity theft, which means they have to be, caught, which means they're going to be found out that they're illegal, which means they're going to get deported. Well, maybe they won't get deported because, Obama just released 3,700 illegals, of Class 1 criminals onto our streets. So maybe, those people who aren't Class 1, they'll get an even better chance of staying here in the U.S. by being put out on the street. You never know. Filers would have to reconstruct earnings and other records for years when they were not able to work on the books. So now they're working off the books. They're possibly filing with fake Social Security numbers. So the IRS is just saying, well, yeah, we're going to condone all kinds of illegal activity here, and then they're going to give them the ability to get the earned income tax credit, which means what? You and I are going to be paying for illegals. That was the whole point, folks. We told you this. The whole point is that, giving them amnesty was a fast track so they could get American dollars. So then they would say, oh, thank you, Mr. Democrat. I vote for you as soon as I can. And then as soon as they get up to speed and they become voting citizens, then they'll vote Democrat. That's the whole point and notion of them doing such things on the left. It's called a voting block. And the left thinks that they can get a huge voting block by getting these people to, hey, how would you also like the government knowing where you are? We know where you are because you filed a return, so you owe us. You owe us. Either vote Democrat or get expelled out of the country. You owe us. Owe us. Kind of like Hillary running for president, and they've got all that kind of influence peddling and cash that they took. Well, now they owe a bunch of people. Now, the IRS determined that once a Social Security number is obtained, an individual could go ahead and file for a back tax return up to 3 years, including years when they were illegal workers earning money off the books. Now, what if they were earning money on the books, but with a fake Social Security number, and now they have a real Social Security number? Are they going to be able to use that fake one? Just saying. I'm telling you, what we're doing is we're starting to condone illegal activity. We're starting to condone and accept and even pay. Hey, we used to say that crime doesn't pay. Well, now, thanks to the IRS and a few other government agencies, we're now getting to the point where we can say crime can pay if you're an illegal immigrant crossing the border illegally and trying to earn a living here illegally. It can pay because we're not going to punish you. Well, folks, it is the end of another wonderful program, another wonderful day. I will be back here, same back time tomorrow, same back channel. As always, I'm Rod Eccles. This has been the Rod Eccles Show. Thanks for listening. I'm out.